Tough questions, new insights, diverse perspectives. Welcome to Questions of the Day with Fanuel Muindi.
Welcome back. I am so excited to now talk to our next guest, Ms. Tokiwa Smith, the founder and executive director of Science, Engineering, and Mathematics Link, also known as SEM Link, a nonprofit organization that exposes youth to STEM and STEM careers by connecting them to the STEM community. And I have had the pleasure of engaging Ms. Smith for the past 2 years, I would say. You know, we've connected through the Science Sandbox community. And more recently, I discovered that her organization was one of 20 organizations that received a grant from the Foot Locker Foundation List Corporation. So we're going to be talking about that. But before we get into that, I don't think I did it justice describing what SEM does. Could you tell us a little bit more, Tokiwa, what SEM is and what does it do?
So SEM Link is a nonprofit that I started in 2005. Some people stuffed out the T. I'm like, no, that's how long I've been. There was no T. But, it's an organization that I started in 2005 because I'm a chemical engineer. And I was around kids in Atlanta, brilliant kids that could have been STEM professionals, but weren't even considering it because they didn't know anybody in that field. And so as a chemical engineer, I thought this was an easy fix of what I could do was provide positive role models in STEM. Because for some kids, the love of science is not enough. They need to see people doing those things in order to have an idea of what's possible for them. And so that's the name SEM Link, connecting kids to the STEM community. And so we do this through hands-on activities, career exploration, STEM literacy, and the program that Science Sandbox funds, which connected us, is a STEM journal club for high school students where we teach them how to read STEM journals. Mm-hmm. And the end of the program, their final project is a podcast episode where they discuss a STEM journal. And so with that, we focus on STEM communication and STEM literacy, because as you know, as a scientist, a lot of scientists don't know how to communicate STEM to the general public, but that's a super skill. You also know as a scientist, a lot of us have not read our first journal till we get on a college campus. And so having kids learn how to read and write, scientific journal, and especially in this age where there's so much misinformation, even though we have these computers in our hands, right, it's important to teach kids how to do scholarly research.
Right. And so you got this new award, right? Mm-hmm. And you mentioned the Science Sandbox, of course, has supported this other project. Mm-hmm. And going on your website, in fact, you have several funders, right, that have supported various projects, maybe the same project in different years. Mm-hmm. Tell us about this new funding that you received. And I ask this because rarely do we see the result. We see, hey, I got the grant, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But tell us a little bit about leading up to the grant. Is this something you applied for? Were you invited? Give us a little bit of a backstory about the grant.
Well, I applied for it, and I actually laughed because the part of the grant that people are most excited about, I threw in the air because I was like, they're not going to fund us. Like, I'm a small Black-led org. We don't always get corporate, funding. We're not always a recipient of philanthropy. But one of the things that is exciting about this funding, one of our newer programs. So pre-pandemic, we did a lot of partnerships with schools and community organizations, and that worked well for them. As we all know, well, not everyone, but some of us actually shifted during the pandemic to see, reimagine things. And so one of the things with virtual programming is it took away those, for lack of a better term, middlemen, the schools, community orgs, and we went straight into homes through our virtual programming. And so when I decided to resume in-person programming in August, I moved to a community STEM model where we do STEM in community spaces, in community of color, that they do not have a lot of STEM programming, limited or none. And for me, that is important for two things. If I really, really want to talk about how we are going to inspire the next generation of STEM professionals, how we're going to diversify the future STEM workforce, then a lot of that is connected to sense of belonging, right? Mm-hmm. And that really starts with, do kids feel comfortable in these quote unquote STEM spaces? And a lot of times they don't, right? But we do know they feel comfortable in these spaces. They go every day, the libraries, third spaces, parks and rec. And so I was super excited to get funding for these new initiatives. And so that is where the program development came for this grant and laid the foundation.
I want to ask you the question that you asked yourself. What impact do you hope to see? What is that thing that you had written down that you told them, after the X is done, we shall see X?
You know, it is multi-layered and multi-dimensional because I'm a Cancer and I'm multi-dimensional. You know, we have all the emotions. It comes to a couple of things, right? The first thing in its premise is to expose as many kids as I can to STEM and STEM careers, right? Mm-hmm. That second thing, and I think about, you know, the story of my grandmother, who chemistry was her favorite subject, but she wasn't able to based on, you know, being a Black woman in the South in the 40s, right? But to remove as many barriers as I can for youth of color. And it's really interesting because this is something that I didn't really focus on. You know, when I started the work, I'm a Black woman. So of course, you know, I am going to do things for kids that look like me. But we have certain barriers that are for youth of color, and it's particularly Black youth. And what I noticed, and it bothered me, which has made that shift in my work. I mean, we serve all kids, but being more intentional is that when you saw this push of STEM and kids, it still didn't have too many kids of color. And it's just like, okay, so now you're just saying we just don't want the white men. But when we look at the history, especially of Black people in STEM, we are the originator of STEM. They still can't figure out how the pyramids were built. We still use ancient Egyptian math and principles in science. Some of the things that were supposedly Greek principles, we found out later they're actually African principles. You know, African mathematicians and scientists did that. And so somehow in the legacy of colonialism and slavery and all of that stuff, right, that we ain't gonna talk about too much because we're STEM educators outreach. The vision of who is a STEM professional, who can be STEM professional, became very narrow.
How can people get in touch with you? Can they email you? What's the best way?
They can email me, but I'm about to go on break from Juneteenth to July 4th. To July 4th. They can email me. We are on social media at SEM Link. LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. So if you follow us on Instagram, we can keep track, you know, of what the progress is and what we do.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I think that if you want to keep abreast, you can just follow us on social media, but you can always email me. But I may not always, I'm a little slower on email. So if it depends on what you want to do, like if you just want to stay abreast, follow us on social media. We're pretty good about putting updates of our work on there. But if you want to talk to me, you can email me, but it's quicker for you to know with social media.
Okay, you heard it. Okay, socials is the way to go. But of course, yes, you can tune right here because there's some things they may not share on social that they will be sharing right here. So
yeah, because social is limited to 60 videos or like 60-second or less videos, right? And in images. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Just imagine how much information we just shared right here in the last 15 minutes or so. It's a lot. And
that was not on social. You're right.
There's a lot to unpack there. And so we need you back for sure. Thank you so much for facing the hot questions on Question of the Day. Okay, we'll look forward to having you back.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this conversation. I think that you ask questions that people don't always ask. Well, what is your why? What is your impact?
Yeah, wonderful. More to come. More to come.